Hello, listening squirrels. Chapter 2 of this crazy book is called Whims. I think we're going to have, we'll just see. I start to say a different storyline, and then maybe that first chapter will make sense later. Just haven't read it, but I just see some different names here. So, Whims, W-H-I-M-S. Is the name of this chapter. Come, Sylvia, it's 9 o'clock, little slug of bed. Don't you mean to get up today? Said Miss Yule, bustling into her sister's room with the wide-awake appearance of one to whom sleep was a necessary evil to be endured and gotten over as soon as possible. See? No, why should I? And Sylvia turned her face away from the flood of light that poured into the room as Prue put aside the curtains and flung up the window. Why should you? What a question, unless you're ill. I was afraid you would suffer for that long row yesterday, and my predictions seldom fail. I'm not suffering from any cause whatever, and your prediction does fail this time. I'm only tired of everybody and everything and see nothing worth getting up for, so I shall just stay here till I do. Please put the curtain down and leave me in peace. Prue had dropped her voice to the foreboding tone so irritating to nervous persons, whether sick or well, and Sylvia laid her arm across her eyes with an impatient gesture as she spoke sharply. Nothing worth getting up for, cried Prue like an aggravating echo. Why, child, there are 100 pleasant things to do if you would only think so. Now don't be dismal and mope away this lovely day. Get up and try my plan. Have a good breakfast, read the papers, and then work in your garden before it grows too warm. That's wholesome exercise, and you've neglected it sadly of late. I don't wish any breakfast. I hate newspapers. They are so full of lies. I'm tired of the garden, for nothing goes right this year, and I detest taking exercise merely because it's wholesome. No, I'll not get up for that. Then stay in the house and draw, read, or practice. Sit with Mark in the studio. Give Miss Hemming directions about your summer things, or go into town about your bonnet. There's a matinee. Try that. Or make calls, for you owe 50 at least. Now, I'm sure there's employment enough and amusement enough for any reasonable person. Prue looked triumphant, but Sylvia was not a reasonable person and went on in her former despondingly petulant strain. I'm tired of drawing. My head is a jumble of other people's ideas already, and Herr, H-E-R-R, Pedalstrom, has put the piano out of tune. Mark makes a model of me if I go to him, and I don't like to see my eyes, arms, or hair in all his pictures. Miss Hemming's gossip is worse than fussing over new things that I don't need. Bonnets are my torment, and matinees are wearisome, for people whisper and flirt till the music is spoiled. Making calls is the worst of all, for what pleasure or profit is there in running from place to place to tell the same polite fibs over and over again, and listen to scandal that makes you pity or despise your neighbors? I shall not get up for any of these things. Negative. She must have B negative blood. Prue leaned on the bedpost, meditating with an anxious face, till a forlorn hope appeared, which caused her to exclaim, Mark and I are going to see Geoffrey Moore this morning, just home from Switzerland, where his poor sister died, you know. You really ought to come with us and welcome him, for though you can hardly remember him, he's been so long away. Still, as one of the family, it is a proper compliment on your part. The drive will do you good. Geoffrey will be glad to see you. It's a lovely old place, and as you never saw the inside of the house, you cannot complain that you're tired of that yet. Yes, I can, for it will never seem as it has done, and I can never go where I please now that a master's presence spoils its freedom and solitude for me. I don't know him and don't care to, though his name is so familiar. New people always disappoint me, especially if I've heard them praised ever since I was born. I shall not get up for any Geoffrey Moore, so that bait fails." Sylvia smiled involuntarily at her sister's defeat, but Prue fell back upon her last resource in times like this. With a determined gesture, she plunged her hand into an abysmal pocket and from a miscellaneous collection of treasures selected a tiny vial, presenting it to Sylvia with a half-pleading, half-authoritative look and tone. "I'll leave you in peace if you'll only take a dose of chamomilla." Chamomilla. It's so soothing that instead of tiring yourself with all manner of fancies, you'll drop into a quiet sleep and by noon be ready to get up like a civilized being. Do take it, dear. Just 4 sugar plums and I'm satisfied. Sylvia received the bottle with a docile expression, but the next minute it flew out of the window to be shivered. It says shivered instead of shattered on the walk below, while she said, laughing like a willful creature as she was, "I have taken it in the only way I ever shall, and the sparrows can try its soothing effects with me, so be satisfied." "Very well, I shall send for Dr. Baum, for I'm convinced you're going to be ill. I shall say no more, but act as I think proper, because it's like talking to the wind to reason with you in one of these perverse fits." As Prue turned away, Sylvia frowned and called after her, "Spare yourself the trouble, for Dr. Baum will follow the chamomilla if you bring him here. What does he know about health?" So she could pitch him out the window, I guess. A fat German-looking lager beer and talking sauerkraut. "Bring me bona fide sugar plums and I'll take them, but arsenic, mercury, and nightshade are not to my taste." "Would you feel insulted if I ask whether your breakfast is to be sent up or kept waiting till you choose to come down?" Prue looked rigidly calm, but Sylvia knew that she felt hurt, and with one of the sudden impulses which ruled her, the frown melted to a smile as, drawing her sister down, she kissed her in the most loving manner. "Dear old soul, I'll be good by and by, but now I'm tired and cross. So let me keep out of everyone's way and drowse myself into a cheerier frame of mind. I want nothing but solitude, a draught of water, and a kiss." Prue was mollified at once, and after stirring fussily about a few minutes, gave her sister all she asked, and departed, to the myriad small cares that made her happiness. As the door closed, Sylvia sighed a long sigh of relief and folded her arms under her head, drifted away into the land of dreams, where Ennui, E-N-N-U-I, is unknown. All the long summer morning she lay wrapped in sleep and waking dreams, forgetful of the world around her, till her brother played the wedding march upon her door on his way to lunch. The desire to avenge the sudden downfall of a lovely castle in the air roused Sylvia, and sent her down to skirmish with Mark. Before she could say a word, however, Prue began to talk in a steady stream, for the good soul had a habit of jumbling news, gossip, private opinions, and public affairs into colloquial hodgepodge that was often as trying to the intellects as the risibles of her hearers. Risibles? "Sylvia, we had a charming call, and Geoffrey sent his love to you. I asked him over to dinner, and we shall dine at 6, because then my father can be with us. I shall have to go to town first, for there are a dozen things suffering for attention. You can't wear a round hat and lawn jackets without a particle of set all summer. I want some things for dinner, and the carpet must be got. What a lovely one Geoffrey had in the library. Then I see if poor Mrs. Beck has had her leg comfortably off. Ew. Find out if Freddie Lennox is dead. Goodness. And order home the mosquito nettings. Now don't read all the afternoon and be ready to receive anyone who may come if I should get belated. The necessity of disposing of a suspended mouthful produced a lull, and Sylvia seized the moment to ask in a careless way, intended to bring her brother out upon his favorite topic. How did you find your saint, Mark? The same sunshiny soul as ever, though he has had enough to make him old and grave before his time. He is just what we need in our neighborhood, and particularly in our house, for we are a dismal set at times, and he will do us all a world of good. What will become of me with the pious, prosy, perfect creature eternally haunting the house and exhorting me on the error of my ways? Cried Sylvia. Don't disturb yourself. He's not likely to take much notice of you, and it's not for an indolent, freakish midge to scoff at a man whom she does not know and carefully appreciate if she did, was Mark's lofty reply. I rather like the appearance of the saint, however, said Sylvia with an expression of naughty malice as she began her lunch. Why, where did you see him? Exclaimed her brother. I went over there yesterday to take a farewell run in the neglected garden before he came. I knew he was expected, but not that he was here. And when I saw the house open, I slipped in and peeped to wherever I liked. You're right, Prue. It's a lovely old place. Now I know you did something dreadfully unladylike and improper. Put me out of suspense, I beg of you. Prue's distressful face and Mark's surprise produced an inspiring effect upon Sylvia, who continued with an air of demure satisfaction. I strolled about enjoying myself till I got into the library, and there I rummaged, for it was a charming place, and I was happy as only those who love books and feel their influence in the silence of a room whose finest ornaments they are. I hope Moore came in and found you trespassing. No, I went out and caught him playing. When I'd stayed as long as I dared and borrowed a very interesting old book. Sylvia, did you really take one without asking? Cried Prue, looking almost as much alarmed as if she had stolen the spoons. Yes, why not? I can apologize prettily, and it will open the way for more. I intend to browse over that library for the next 6 months. But it was such a liberty, so rude, so... Dear, and he is as fond and careful of his books as if they were his children. Well, I'll wash my hands of it, and I'm prepared for anything now. Mark enjoyed Sylvia's pranks too much to reprove, so he only laughed while one sister lamented and the other placidly went on. When I had put the book nicely in my pocket, Prue, I walked into the garden, but before I picked a single flower, I heard little Tilly laugh behind the hedge and some strange voice talking to her. So I hopped upon a roller to see and nearly tumbled off again, for there was a man lying on the grass with the gardener's children rioting over him. Will was picking his pockets and Tilly eating strawberries out of his hat, often thrusting one into the mouth of her long neighbor, who always smiled when the little hand came fumbling at his lips. You ought to have seen the pretty picture, Mark. Did he see the interesting picture on your side of the wall? No, I was just thinking what friendly eyes he had, listening to his pleasant talk with the little folks, and watching how they nestled to him as if he were a girl. When Tilly looked up and cried, I see silver. So I ran away, expecting to have them all come racing after. but no one appeared, and I only heard a laugh instead of the "Stop, thief" that I deserved. If I had time, I should convince you of the impropriety of such wild actions. As I haven't, I could only implore you never do so again on Jeffrey's premises, said Prue, rising as the carriage drove round. I can safely promise that, answered Sylvia with a dismal shake of the head as she leaned listlessly against the window till the brother and sister were gone. At the appointed time, Moore entered. Mr. Yule's hospitably opened door, but no one came to meet him, and the house was as silent as if nothing human inhabited it. He divined the cause of this, having met Prue and Mark going downward some hours before, and saying to himself, "The boat is late." He disturbed no one, but strolled into the drawing rooms and looked about him. Being one of those who seldom find time heavy on their hands, he amused himself with observing what changes had been made during his absence. His journey around the apartments was not a long one. For coming to an open window, he paused, with an expression of mingled wonder and amusement. A pile of cushions, pulled from chair and sofa, lay before the long window, looking very like a newly deserted nest. A warm-hued picture lifted from the wall stood in a streak of sunshine. A half-cleared leaf of fruit lay on a taboret, Taboret, and beside it, with a red stain on its title page, appeared the stolen book. At sight of this, Moore frowned, caught up his desecrated darling, and put it in his pocket. But as he took another glance at the various indications of what had evidently been a solitary revel, very much after his own heart, he relented, laid back the book, and putting aside the curtain floating in the wind, looked out into the garden, attracted thither by the sound of a spade. A lad was at work nearby, and wondering what new inmate the house had gained. The neglected guest waited to catch a glimpse of the unknown face. A slender boy in a foreign-looking blouse of gray linen, a white collar lay over a ribbon at the throat. Stout half-boots covered a trim pair of feet, and a broad-shouldered hat flapped low on the forehead. Whistling softly, he dug with active gestures, and having made the necessary cavity, set a shrub, filled up the hole, trod it down scientifically, and then fell back to survey the success of his labors. But something was amiss. Something had been forgotten, for suddenly up came the shrub, and seizing a wheelbarrow that stood nearby, away rattled the boy round the corner out of sight. Moore smiled at his impetuosity and awaited his return with interest, suspecting from appearances that this was some protege of Mark's employed as a model as well as gardener's boy. Presently up the path came the lad, with head down and steady pace, trundling a barrel full of richer earth, surmounted by a watering pot. Never stopping for breath, he fell to work again, enlarged the hole, flung in the loam, LOAM, poured in the water, reset the shrub, and when the last stamp and pat were given, performed a little dance of triumph around it, at the close of which he pulled off his hat and began to fan his heated face. The action caused the observer to start and look again, thinking as he recognized the energetic worker with a smile. What a changeable thing it is, haunting one's premises unseen and stealing one's books unsuspected, dreaming one half the day and masquerading the other half. What will happen next? Let us see, but not be seen, lest the boy turn shy and run away before the pretty play is done. Holding the curtain between the window and himself, Moore peeped through the semi-transparent screen, enjoying the little episode immensely. Sylvia fanned and rested a few minutes, then went up and down among the flowers, often pausing to break a dead leaf to brush away some harmful insect or lift some struggling plant into the light, moving among them as if akin to them, and cognizant of their sweet wants. If she had seemed strong-armed and sturdy as a boy before, now she was tender-fingered as a woman, and went humming here and there like any happy-hearted bee. Curious little child, thought Moore, watching the sunshine glitter on her uncovered head, and listened to the air she left half sung. I've a great desire to step out and see how she will receive me, not like any other girl, I fancy. And I'm going to stop there. Let's see how much more we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. About 12 more pages, so we'll get that tomorrow. That's better, isn't it? I don't know what. That first thing was like some kind of classic something or other. Over my head. Well, not really, but just weird. But we'll see. It's bound to tie together some kind of way. Have a happy night. If you didn't come to live today, I hope you'll check out the replay. Had an FO or two. And, oh lordy, it's just falling. My pillow. Alrighty. See you in the YouTube streets. Be sweet, don't be ugly.